Hey guys, tonight we're drifting across the shimmering waters of Lake Texcoco, stepping carefully onto floating gardens that seem to hover between sky and water. Imagine the smell of moist earth mixed with blooming flowers, the gentle lap of water against these patchwork islands, and the distant bustle of Tenochtitlan, a city alive and thriving amid this watery labyrinth. It's a place where nature and human ingenuity intertwine, where food grows not just from soil but from cleverness and care. You probably won't survive a day on these chinampas without learning their secrets and respecting the delicate balance they maintain. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing on the edge of a calm lake surrounded by vast reed beds, the water reflecting a sky streaked with pink and orange. Before you, small rectangular islands stretch out, their edges lined with sturdy stakes and floating vegetation. These are chinampas, the Aztecs' ingenious floating gardens, created to turn marshy lakes into fertile land. They're not quite land and not quite water, but somewhere in between, a hybrid space buzzing with life. The creation of chinampas is a marvel of ancient engineering. Layers of mud, sediment, and plant material are woven together to form these stable platforms. Reeds and stakes create borders, holding the rich soil in place. You can almost hear the rhythm of labor, digging, weaving, planting, transforming the lake's surface into a vibrant patchwork quilt of green and gold. Historians still debate exactly how early chinampas were developed, and whether they originated independently or evolved from earlier agricultural practices. Some suggest influences from other Mesoamerican peoples, while others see the Aztecs as the primary innovators. You glance down and notice the plants growing robustly, maize stalks, beans climbing on tiny poles, bright chili peppers hanging in clusters. Mixed in are marigolds and other flowers, adding splashes of color and serving both beauty and pest control. This is a place where food and flowers grow side by side, each supporting the other in a delicate, time-tested dance. It's not just agriculture, it's an art form, a way of life that sustained one of the greatest cities in the Americas. And as you breathe in the cool, earthy air, you feel the pulse of this ancient ecosystem, the heartbeat of the Aztec world itself. You step carefully onto one of these chinampas, feeling the slight give beneath your feet, the soft, fertile earth held together by roots and reeds, floating serenely on the lake's surface. The construction of these islands is nothing short of ingenious, a marvel of resourcefulness born from necessity. You notice the wooden stakes driven firmly into the lake bed, woven tightly with willow branches, creating fences that hold layers of mud, decaying vegetation, and soil in place. This layered foundation not only keeps the chinampa stable, but also enriches the soil with nutrients drawn from the lake. As you look closer, you see the patterns in which the Aztecs laid down their materials. Mud dredged from the lake's bottom provided minerals, while reeds and aquatic plants formed a natural compost, making the soil remarkably fertile. This layered technique meant the chinampas could support multiple crops year-round, no small feat in a marshy environment. You might think of these floating farms as ancient hydroponics, a precursor to modern sustainable farming methods. The labor required to create a single chinampa was intense and community-driven. Families and neighbors gathered to dig, weave, and plant together, their work synchronized with the rhythm of the seasons. A single chinampa might measure about 30 meters long and 2 to 10 meters wide, long and narrow like a floating garden bed. As you step along its length, you pass rows of corn stalks, beans trailing up small poles, and bright green squash leaves creating a patchwork of life. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some accounts suggest that Aztec farmers used biodegradable materials like human hair in their chinampa soil mix to improve fertility. Yes, hair, a natural, nitrogen-rich addition to the aquatic compost that helped crops flourish. The resourcefulness is astonishing, though historians still debate how widespread or symbolic this practice really was. Speaking of debates, scholars also question whether chinampas were purely man-made or if the Aztecs adapted and enhanced natural floating islands found in the lake. Some argue these islands formed naturally, with the Aztecs refining and cultivating them, while others believe the entire system was deliberately engineered from scratch. Either way, the chinampas stand as a testament to Aztec ingenuity. As you glance out across the expanse of shimmering water dotted with these floating fields, you realize the scale of this agricultural marvel. These gardens didn't just provide food, They transformed a lake into a bustling metropolis's lifeline, allowing Tenochtitlan to grow into one of the largest cities of its time. You feel a sense of awe for the hands that built this patchwork paradise from mud, reeds, and sweat, an ancient ecosystem balanced delicately between water and earth. It's a story of survival, collaboration, and boundless creativity, woven into the very fabric of the Aztec world. You move deeper into the rhythm of life on the Chinampas, sensing the daily routines that kept these floating gardens flourishing. Early morning mist rises from the lake's surface as farmers begin their work, dipping their hands into the rich, dark soil to plant seeds or tend young shoots. The air smells of damp earth and fresh water, punctuated by the occasional chirp of birds nesting in the surrounding reeds. It's a place where the natural world and human hands meet in harmony. You watch as farmers carefully arrange their crops, understanding the ancient wisdom behind the milpa system, the intercropping of maize, beans, and squash. Maize stands tall, a proud sentinel. Beans climb its stalks, enriching the soil with nitrogen, and sprawling squash leaves shade the earth, keeping moisture in and weeds out. This trio, known as the Three Sisters, represents a balanced and sustainable approach to agriculture, passed down through generations. But the Chinampas aren't just for food crops. You spot patches of colorful flowers, marigolds, dahlias, and chrysanthemums, woven throughout the garden beds. These aren't mere decoration. They play a vital role in pest control and spiritual practice. Bright marigolds repel insects harmful to crops, while the Aztecs believed flowers held sacred properties that could bless the harvest. Gardens and spirituality intertwine here in vivid, living patterns. There's a quirky detail. Some Chinampa farmers kept small ducks or other waterfowl on the islands. These birds help control pests by eating insects and fertilize the soil with their droppings, creating a self-sustaining cycle of life. It's an elegant, low-tech solution that speaks to the Aztecs' deep understanding of ecology. Historians still debate how much of the day-to-day farming was done by specialized Chinampa farmers versus the urban dwellers of Tenochtitlan. Was it a rigid caste system or more fluid? Archaeological evidence points toward both community cooperation and skilled specialists, but the full picture remains murky. You take a moment to imagine the farmer's hands, stained with mud, nimble from years of careful work, weaving together not just plants but the survival of a civilization. The steady cadence of planting, watering, and harvesting echoes across centuries, a quiet song of resilience and ingenuity. As the sun climbs higher, you notice the intricate network of canals threading between Chinampas, shimmering like veins. These waterways aren't mere decoration, they're vital lifelines supporting irrigation, transportation, and even aquaculture. Life on the Chinampas is as much about water as it is about earth, a fluid partnership that has kept these gardens vibrant for centuries. You can almost feel the pulse of the community, the shared knowledge, the cooperation, the respect for the delicate balance that sustains it all. It's a daily dance of nature and nurture, ancient wisdom and hard work, wrapped in the embrace of Lake Texcoco's shimmering waters. You glide along the narrow waterways that lace between the Chinampas, the gentle splash of your canoe's paddle stirring the water's surface and sending ripples through the reflections of sky and reeds. These canals are the veins of this floating world, carrying life-giving water and connecting the patchwork of gardens to the bustling city beyond. The Aztecs engineered these channels not only for irrigation but also as essential transportation routes, weaving a living network that sustained one of the largest cities in pre-Columbian America. You notice how water management on the Chinampas was nothing short of a marvel. Canals were carefully maintained to regulate water levels, preventing flooding while ensuring routes stayed moist. Small sluices and dikes were built to control flow, and farmers skillfully adjusted water access depending on the season. You can almost see the delicate balance they maintained, a dance between wet and dry that kept the gardens fertile and productive. Beyond irrigation, the canals supported fishing and aquaculture. Fish like tilapia thrived in the calm waters, providing protein to supplement the abundant crops. You catch a glimpse of fish darting beneath the surface, shimmering like living jewels. Some evidence even suggests the Aztecs raised aquatic plants alongside fish, creating a symbiotic system that enriched both land and water. A quirky historical tidbit: some Chinampa farmers reportedly used floating baskets planted with herbs and vegetables, which could be moved or rotated according to sunlight or flooding risks. It's a floating garden within a floating garden, a testament to adaptability and innovation. Historians still debate the extent of this integrated water agriculture system. Did the Aztecs develop it entirely, or did they build upon earlier Mesoamerican techniques? Some scholars argue the Chinampa system evolved from earlier wetland farming methods, while others emphasize the Aztecs' unique advancements in scale and complexity. You trace your fingers along the water's edge, imagining the generations of hands that tended these canals, removing debris, managing silt, and keeping the lifeblood of the Chinampas flowing. Without this mastery of water, none of the floating gardens could thrive, and Tenochtitlan might never have risen to such grandeur. As you drift past flowering plants nodding in the breeze and maize stalks standing tall, you understand that the relationship between water and land here is not adversarial but cooperative, fluid and interdependent. The Aztecs embraced the lake's challenges and turned them into opportunities. You hear the distant calls of merchants and neighbors, the creak of wooden boats, and the occasional splash of fish, sounds that, like the waterways themselves, connect every corner of this aquatic city. In this liquid landscape, life pulses with a steady, ancient rhythm, one you're beginning to feel in your own chest. The heartbeat of a civilization built on water, soil, and ingenuity. You pause to admire the vibrant colors dotting the Chinampas, bright marigolds, delicate dahlias, and sweet-smelling blossoms weaving their way through rows of maize and beans. Flowers aren't just decorative here. They're an integral part of the Aztec agricultural tapestry, blending utility and spirituality in a way that's both practical and poetic. The air is thick with their scent, mingling with the earthy aromas of wet soil and ripening crops. These gardens are alive with symbolism. Marigolds, for example, were believed to have protective powers, repelling pests that might otherwise devour the precious food. Their golden petals mirror the sun's own brilliance, a nod to Tonatiuh, the sun god, whose favor the Aztecs sought in all things. Dahlias and chrysanthemums, native to the region, provided both beauty and utility, often used in rituals and offerings. You notice how the Aztecs integrated flowers alongside staple crops, creating a harmonious environment where food and flora grew side by side. This wasn't just farming, it was a celebration of life, a living altar to the gods and the earth. The visual balance of colors and textures reveals a deep aesthetic sense, reflecting an understanding that the health of the garden depended on more than just yield. A quirky detail. Some scholars suggest that flowers in Aztec gardens also served as natural dyes, with their petals used to color fabrics and paints. The same blossoms protecting crops might also adorn the garments of nobles and priests, weaving together agriculture, art, and ceremony. Historians still debate the extent to which these floral elements had spiritual significance versus practical agricultural use. Did the Aztecs see flowers primarily as divine gifts, or were they savvy farmers who knew a good pest deterrent when they saw one? The truth likely lies in the vibrant overlap of both worlds. You lean closer to a cluster of bright orange marigolds, feeling the warmth of the petals in your palm. It's a connection to a time when beauty and sustenance were inseparable, when the garden was a sacred space tended with reverence and care. As you stand amidst the blooms and maize stalks, you feel the pulse of an ancient belief, that the earth is alive, and that tending it well is both a duty and a delight. The floating gardens hum with this quiet energy, a timeless dance of growth and gratitude under the vast Mexican sky. You glance out across the vast expanse of Chinampas, the patchwork of green rectangles floating like emerald jewels on the shimmering blue of Lake Texcoco. These gardens aren't just botanical wonders, they're the lifeblood of Tenochtitlan, feeding tens of thousands who call the island city home. It's easy to forget that beneath the grandeur of pyramids and temples lies this humble yet vital foundation of daily survival. The productivity of Chinampas was astonishing. Thanks to their fertile soil and year-round growing conditions, these floating fields could yield multiple harvests annually, providing a steady supply of maize, beans, squash, chili peppers, tomatoes, and even medicinal herbs. This abundance supported not just the masses but the priests, warriors, and rulers who made the Aztec Empire such a formidable power. You can almost see the bustling markets of Tenochtitlan, where farmers bring their fresh produce by canoe, shouting prices and bargaining with city dwellers. The aroma of roasted corn and fresh tortillas mingles with the laughter and chatter, a sensory feast woven from the fruits of the Chinampa gardens. A quirky but vital fact. The Chinampa system's efficiency meant the Aztecs didn't have to rely solely on hunting or gathering, allowing urban centers to flourish with dense populations, an early form of urban food security. Historians still debate just how central Chinampas were to Aztec society compared to tribute and trade. Some argue these gardens were the primary food source, while others suggest that extensive trade networks supplemented local production. Either way, the Chinampa's role was undeniably crucial. You picture the layers beneath each Chinampa: sediment, roots, and aquatic life, working together in a natural fertilizer cycle. It's a perfect example of ecosystem services, centuries ahead of modern ecological thinking. The Aztecs weren't just farming, they were orchestrating a living system where human and nature thrived together. As you breathe in the moist lake air, you sense the deep connection between the gardens and the people they fed, intertwined destinies floating on water, held together by knowledge, toil, and reverence. This floating garden city wasn't just a marvel of engineering. It was a testament to human resilience and adaptation, thriving in a challenging environment through ingenuity and respect for nature's rhythms. You wander along the narrow paths that thread between Chinampas, watching families and neighbors work side by side, their hands moving in practiced harmony. Farming here is not a solitary endeavor, but a deeply social one, woven into the fabric of community life. People share tools, knowledge, and labor, creating a collective effort that sustains the floating gardens and, by extension, the city itself. Children run between rows of crops, learning early the skills they will one day master. Elders oversee tasks with quiet authority, passing down wisdom about planting cycles, pest control, and the sacred rhythms of the land and water. You hear the gentle hum of conversation, punctuated by laughter and the occasional call of a distant bird. It's a scene rich with life and connection, a small society thriving on cooperation. Gender roles in Chinampa farming appear fluid. Women tend to crops, prepare seeds, and manage storage, while men may handle heavier labor like dredging mud or constructing new garden beds. Yet these roles overlap, with families working as cohesive units. Your mind drifts to the question, how rigid were these divisions? Historians still debate whether labor on Chinampas was strictly divided by gender or more flexible, adapting to needs and circumstances. A quirky note: some Chinampa farmers used ingenious water tools, simple wooden scoops and baskets, to irrigate plants, conserving precious water and keeping the soil moist. These devices show a level of innovation that often surprises modern observers. As you walk, you glimpse small shrines adorned with flowers and offerings, signaling the spiritual dimensions embedded in daily work. The cultivation of Chinampas was not merely economic but a sacred duty, connecting people to their gods and the cycles of nature. The communal spirit here is palpable, a shared heartbeat that echoes through generations. Each hand that tills the soil, each voice that teaches a child, contributes to a living legacy, one as vital today as it was centuries ago. You pause, feeling the warmth of sunlight filtering through the clouds, and realize that the story of the Chinampas is as much about people as it is about land and water. A story of human resilience, cooperation, and reverence. You lean over the edge of a canal, watching fish dart beneath the shimmering surface, their scales catching flecks of sunlight like scattered jewels. Aquaculture is another thread woven tightly into the fabric of Chinampa life. The Aztecs didn't just grow plants, they cultivated fish and other aquatic creatures in these waters, creating a symbiotic system where land and water sustained each other. Tilapia and other native fish thrived in the calm canals, feeding on insects and algae, while their movements helped oxygenate the water, benefiting the crop's roots. Some accounts suggest the Aztecs even raised waterfowl on the Chinampas, birds that controlled pests and added organic fertilizer. The interconnectedness of these elements speaks to a sophisticated understanding of ecosystem management, long before the word existed. You notice a farmer tossing small fish fry into the canal, a delicate act that mirrors planting seeds on land. The patience required is immense. Fish take time to mature, much like maize or beans. It's a reminder that Chinampa farming was as much about long-term care as daily toil. A quirky detail: some Spanish chroniclers marveled at how the Aztecs could harvest both fish and crops from the same floating island, seeing it as a wonder of the New World. Yet, historians debate how widespread fish farming truly was versus opportunistic fishing. This blending of agriculture and aquaculture may have contributed significantly to the Aztec diet, providing protein and nutrients alongside staple crops. The canals were not just irrigation but bustling aquariums of life. As you watch a fish leap from the water, sparkling midair before slipping back beneath the surface, you feel the pulse of this ancient system, a dance of land and water, plant and animal, human and nature, all thriving in delicate balance. It's a reminder that the Aztec success wasn't just engineering, but an intimate dialogue with the environment, a relationship built on respect, observation, and ingenuity. You watch a farmer carefully wield a simple wooden tool, its worn handle smoothed by years of use. The Aztecs' mastery of Chinampa farming wasn't just about land and water, it was also about technology and innovation. Their tools, humble yet effective, were crafted with precision to meet the unique challenges of cultivating floating gardens. Wooden digging sticks, stone knives, and reed baskets made the work manageable, while small canoes served as mobile platforms for planting, harvesting, and transporting goods. These tools were designed for versatility and durability in a wet, shifting environment. You can almost hear the rhythmic tapping of wooden mallets and the soft splash of paddles as the farmers maneuver between plots. The Aztecs also developed ingenious methods to keep the soil fertile. Layers of mud dredged from the canals replenished nutrients, while aquatic plants and algae acted as natural compost. You might find yourself marveling at how this ecosystem functioned like a living machine, with each element supporting the others. Here's a quirky side note. Some archaeologists found evidence of tiny stone weights that may have been used as rudimentary fishing nets or soil compaction tools, little hints of how Aztec farmers tweaked their techniques for maximum efficiency. Historians still debate whether these technologies were unique to the Aztecs or shared with other Mesoamerican cultures. Some suggest a long tradition of knowledge exchange along trade routes, while others emphasize Aztec innovations born from their specific environment. As you trace the shapes of these ancient tools in your mind, you appreciate the blend of simplicity and sophistication, tools that were perfectly suited to a challenging, watery world, enabling the Aztecs to build a city on a lake. The ingenuity woven into every aspect of Chinampa farming reveals a civilization deeply attuned to its surroundings, turning constraints into advantages and transforming wetlands into a thriving metropolis. You feel the weight of this legacy, carried not just in stories but in the mud-streaked hands of those who tended these gardens day after day. You sense the fragile balance that Chinampa farmers constantly navigated, aware that despite their ingenuity, nature posed relentless challenges. Seasonal flooding could swell the lake's waters, threatening to wash away precious crops and damage the intricate canals. Farmers had to remain vigilant, adjusting their techniques to safeguard their floating islands against the whims of weather and water. You observe the strategic placement of willow trees and stakes along the edges of Chinampas, natural barriers that helped protect soil from erosion and buffered the impact of rising waters. The roots of these plants reinforced the island's foundations, binding the earth and preventing it from slipping away. It's a testament to the Aztecs' ecological wisdom, blending living materials with engineering. Pests were another threat. Leaf-eating insects and rodents sometimes swarmed the gardens, prompting farmers to use companion planting and natural repellents. Marigolds and other flowers were planted to deter pests, while certain herbs served both culinary and protective purposes. You can almost hear the farmers' quiet conversations about which plants worked best, passed down through generations. Here's an intriguing tidbit. Some scholars believe the Aztecs practiced crop rotation on Chinampas to maintain soil fertility, moving plants to different plots each season, a practice echoed in modern sustainable farming. However, historians still debate the extent of this technique's use. You imagine the hard work of monitoring and repairing Chinampas throughout the year, patching soil, clearing canals, and adjusting water flow. It was a labor of love and necessity, demanding not just skill but deep patience. The resilience of these gardens mirrors the resilience of the people who tended them, thriving amid challenges that would have broken lesser communities. Chinampas weren't just agricultural plots, they were living systems requiring constant care and respect. As you watch the lake's surface ripple with the wind, you appreciate the delicate dance between human effort and natural forces, a dance that allowed one of the ancient world's greatest cities to flourish in harmony with its environment. The story of Chinampa farming is one of adaptation and perseverance, a reminder that survival often hinges on listening carefully to the land and water around us. You wander through the bustling markets of Tenochtitlan, the city alive with colors, sounds, and smells drawn from the bounty of the Chinampas. Vendors display baskets overflowing with freshly harvested maize, bright red chili peppers, squash blossoms, and fragrant herbs. The air hums with the chatter of buyers haggling, the laughter of children darting between stalls, and the rhythmic beat of drums from a nearby celebration. This marketplace is the vibrant heart of the city's economy, where the fruits of Chinampa labor meet the needs of a sprawling urban population. You see canoes gliding along canals, laden with produce bound for market, their owners calling out to potential customers on the shore. It's a lively, interconnected system, where farmers, traders, and consumers each play vital roles. A quirky detail catches your eye. Some vendors sell small bundles of flowers harvested alongside crops, used for religious offerings or personal adornment. These floral touches remind you of the sacred nature of agriculture in Aztec culture. Every harvest was not just sustenance, but a gift to the gods. Historians still debate how market economies like this balanced with the tribute system, where conquered peoples sent goods to the Aztec capital. Was the marketplace primarily local, or did it serve as a hub for goods from far-flung regions? Archaeological evidence points to a complex economy blending local production and imperial demands. You notice a pair of merchants exchanging woven mats dyed with vibrant pigments, another thread in the tapestry of Aztec artistry and commerce. These textiles, much like the Chinampa crops, carry stories of culture, identity, and craftsmanship. As you breathe in the scents of fresh food and burning copal incense, you feel connected to a world where agriculture, trade, and spirituality interlaced seamlessly. The Chinampas feed not just bodies but traditions, rituals, and the vibrant life of a city built on water and wisdom. You step back, watching the flow of people and goods, marveling at the complexity and vitality of an ancient marketplace sustained by floating gardens, proof that great civilizations bloom where innovation meets community. You find yourself near the towering temples of Tenochtitlan, where the power of the Aztec Empire is displayed in grand architecture and intricate art. Yet just beneath this imposing civilization lies the humble Chinampa, the foundation upon which all else rests. These floating gardens, hidden in plain sight, represent more than agriculture. They are symbols of the empire's relationship with nature and the divine. You learn that the Aztecs saw their gardens not just as food sources, but as sacred spaces, cultivated in harmony with the gods. Rituals were performed to bless the Chinampas, asking for rain, fertility, and protection from calamity. Priests offered prayers and sacrifices, acknowledging that despite human ingenuity, the favor of the gods was essential. A curious detail, some Chinampas featured small shrines or statues dedicated to agricultural deities, like Xilanen, goddess of young maize, and Tlaloc, god of rain. These spiritual elements underscored the inseparable bond between cultivation and worship in Aztec society. Historians still debate how ritual and practical farming were intertwined. Were ceremonies merely symbolic, or did they play a direct role in managing agricultural cycles? Some suggest that ritual timings influence planting and harvesting, while others view these acts as expressions of cultural identity and control. You imagine the farmers, priests, and city dwellers coming together in these moments of reverence, hands clasped, offerings laid carefully among ripening crops. The sacred and the everyday blended seamlessly in a culture where life was a continuous weave of belief and survival. As you stand beneath the shadow of a temple, you feel the pulse of a civilization that understood its dependence on the land and water and honored that connection through ceremony and care. The Chinampas, floating quietly below, continue their work, silent yet essential threads holding the Aztec world together. You drift to the edges of the Chinampa system, where the gardens meet the open waters of Lake Texcoco, and observe the subtle transitions between cultivated land and wild ecosystem. Here, reeds and cattails grow tall, their rustling stalks providing habitat for birds, insects, and fish. The Aztecs understood the importance of preserving these natural borders, recognizing that biodiversity helped maintain the health of their agricultural islands. You notice small patches of wild plants thriving alongside crops, contributing to soil enrichment and pest control. The Chinampa system was more than just floating fields. It was a carefully balanced mosaic of cultivated and wild spaces, a testament to sustainable land management. A quirky tidbit. Some scholars propose that Aztec farmers deliberately encouraged beneficial insects like ladybugs and dragonflies, recognizing their role in keeping pest populations in check, a kind of ancient biological pest control. Historians still debate how intentional this ecological balance was. Was it a conscious practice rooted in observation, or more of an incidental outcome of traditional farming? Archaeological and ethno-historical evidence hints at both, reflecting a nuanced relationship with the environment. You imagine the sounds of this borderland, the buzz of insects, the call of water birds, and the gentle lapping of water against plant stems. It's a peaceful, vibrant edge where human cultivation and nature coexist in dynamic harmony. The Chinampas, floating amidst this living fringe, are more than farms, They are ecosystems, classrooms of environmental stewardship long before the term existed. You feel a deep respect for the Aztecs' ability to integrate agriculture with ecology, shaping a landscape that was productive, resilient, and alive with complexity. As you gaze across this verdant tapestry, you sense that the story of Chinampa farming is as much about humility before nature as it is about human creativity. The floating gardens offer a timeless lesson. Prosperity flows when we nurture, protect, and listen to the land and water that sustain us. You follow a path leading to a small settlement nestled along the lake's edge, where families live in wooden homes raised above the water on stilts. The people here are intimately connected to the Chinampa Gardens. They are farmers, fishers, and caretakers of this aquatic landscape. Their daily lives unfold in sync with the rhythms of the lake and the seasons, a continuous dialogue with their environment. Children run barefoot along wooden walkways, their laughter mingling with the calls of fishermen hauling nets and the soft splash of canoes cutting through water. You observe women preparing meals with fresh produce and fish, weaving baskets, and tending small herb gardens near their homes. The scent of cooking maize and herbs drifts through the air, grounding the scene in a warm, sensory reality. A quirky note: these lakeside communities often celebrated harvest festivals with music, dance, and offerings to deities like Chicamcotl, goddess of agriculture. These celebrations reinforced social bonds and expressed gratitude for the Chinampa's gifts. Historians still debate how urban these lakeside villages truly were. Were they densely populated hubs or small, scattered communities? Some argue that Chinampa farmers lived close to their plots to tend them more efficiently, while others suggest they commuted daily from the city center. You imagine the intimate knowledge these families held, of weather patterns, planting cycles, and water management, passed down through generations like precious heirlooms. Their lives were woven tightly with the land and lake, embodying resilience and adaptation. As you watch a fisherman casting his net into the water, you feel the pulse of a community thriving through balance and hard work, a living testament to the success of Chinampa agriculture. This close-knit lifestyle speaks to the broader Aztec world, where urban life and nature coexisted in intricate harmony, each shaping the other. You take a deep breath, letting the sounds and smells of this lakeside village settle in your mind, a vivid reminder that the heart of the Aztec Empire beat strongest here, in the gardens and homes floating on water. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows over the tranquil waters of Lake Texcoco, you take one last look at the floating gardens, the Chinampas, that have sustained a civilization for centuries. Their rich soil, vibrant crops, and intertwined ecosystems stand as a testament to human ingenuity and harmony with nature. The gentle lapping of water against the garden edges blends with the calls of birds settling for the night, creating a peaceful symphony that carries the weight of history. You reflect on how these ingenious agricultural islands were more than mere food producers. They were cultural landscapes imbued with spiritual meaning, social cooperation, and environmental wisdom. The Aztecs crafted a living system where city and countryside were inseparable, a delicate balance held through care, knowledge, and respect. A quirky final thought: modern scientists today study Chinampa agriculture to find sustainable farming solutions, recognizing its potential to inspire urban agriculture and ecological design centuries later. It's remarkable how a system developed in the swamps of an ancient lake continues to influence the world. Historians still debate the precise techniques, social organization, and long-term impacts of Chinampa farming. Was it a unique Aztec innovation or a culmination of Mesoamerican agricultural traditions? Regardless, its legacy shines brightly. As you turn away, imagine the hands that tended these gardens, the voices that sang to the crops, and the spirits that watched over the lakes. Their story is woven into the fabric of Mexico's landscape and history, a vibrant thread connecting past and present. Now, as night deepens and your eyelids grow heavy, let the calm rhythm of flowing water and rustling leaves cradle you. The story of the Chinampas is not just one of survival, but of flourishing, a reminder that when people work with nature, they create beauty and sustenance that endures. So rest now, wrapped in the quiet magic of floating gardens, knowing that the pulse of life continues, soft and steady beneath the surface.